Hijacker or Hero, the mystery of D.B. Cooper that still haunts the FBI, a massive effort that led nowhere. In the days following the hijacking, the FBI and local law enforcement agencies launched an extensive search for Cooper. The region over which the plane was flying was filled with dense forests, mountains, and rivers. The location was ideal for Cooper's escape, but it also made finding any trace of him incredibly difficult. The mystery of D.B. Cooper remains unsolved to this day. What do you think happened to him? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you love unsolved mysteries and legendary heists, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss a story like this. The FBI initiated a land and air search of the area, with helicopters flying overhead and ground teams combing through forests and difficult terrain. They searched the wilderness for weeks, but despite their exhaustive efforts, they never found any physical evidence that would conclusively prove where Cooper had landed. After a few months, the search operation was scaled down, but it was never fully abandoned. There were still hopeful pockets of investigators, enthusiastic amateur sleuths, and those in the public who continued to believe that Cooper was out there, hiding somewhere in the remote wilderness. However, despite numerous tips and supposed sightings, no one ever found Cooper or any of the parachutes he used to escape. The discovery of the ransom money. A ray of hope in 1980, nearly a decade after the hijacking, a breakthrough occurred. A young boy named Brian Ingram was digging along the Columbia River when he stumbled upon a decaying package. Upon closer inspection, it was revealed to be a portion of the ransom money from the hijacking, $5,800 in $20 bills. The discovery sent a ripple of excitement through the FBI and the public, as it seemed to confirm that Cooper had landed somewhere near the river. However, while the money was a significant find, it didn't provide much new evidence regarding Cooper's identity or his fate. The money had been buried for nearly a decade, and despite efforts to trace its movement, no further clues were uncovered. Richard McCoy, the skyjacker who fit the profile. One of the most famous theories surrounding the D.B. Cooper case is that Cooper and Richard McCoy were the same person. McCoy, a man with a criminal background, hijacked a plane in 1972, less than a year after Cooper's infamous crime. The similarities between the two hijackings were striking. Both involved the demand for a ransom, the use of a parachute, and an escape via a plane. McCoy's hijacking was far less sophisticated than Cooper's, but the parallels were enough to generate suspicion. McCoy was arrested and imprisoned after his hijacking, and some speculated that he had a hand in the Cooper crime as well. However, the FBI thoroughly investigated McCoy and cleared him of any involvement in the Cooper case, particularly since he was already in custody at the time of Cooper's escape. Though the theory was ultimately debunked, McCoy's hijacking remains an intriguing footnote in the ongoing mystery of D.B. Cooper. Kenneth Christiansen, the ex-employee, suspect Kenneth Christiansen, a former flight attendant with Northwest Orient Airlines, became a prominent suspect in the years following the hijacking. Christiansen had the knowledge of the airline's inner workings and the 727's design. His background and physical description were strikingly similar to the composite sketch of Cooper. In fact, it was Christiansen's brother, a retired police officer, who publicly suggested that Kenneth could have been Cooper. However, despite circumstantial evidence that pointed to Christiansen, no definitive proof has ever emerged linking him to the crime. The FBI's investigation into his potential involvement was inconclusive, and Christiansen died in 1994 without ever being charged or questioned formally as a suspect. The unsolved mystery, why Cooper's identity remains unknown. The core of the D.B. Cooper case lies in the fact that despite years of investigation, hundreds of suspects, and countless theories, no one has ever been able to definitively identify Cooper or locate him. Some theories suggest that Cooper died during his jump, succumbing to the harsh conditions of the wilderness. Others believe that he lived out the rest of his life in secrecy, hiding in plain sight. What makes the case so captivating is the uncertainty. The fact that Cooper managed to execute such a flawless crime, with no physical trace left behind, challenges our understanding of criminal acts. The D.B. Cooper hijacking has become a symbol of the perfect crime, an unsolvable puzzle that continues to fascinate. The mystique of D.B. Cooper. Why the story resonates. The D.B. Cooper case has become a cultural touchstone, inspiring books, documentaries, films, and a plethora of media. The idea of a man outwitting the authorities, pulling off a daring heist, and vanishing without a trace captures the imagination of people from all walks of life. Cooper's story has transcended criminal history and become part of American folklore. The mystery has given birth to a whole subgenre of true crime enthusiasts, treasure hunters, and amateur detectives, all hoping to solve the case. The sense of adventure, intrigue, and the unknown is what keeps the legend alive. Absolutely. Let's continue expanding the story even further. We'll dive deeper into the investigation, cover more theories about the possible identity of D.B. Cooper, and continue to explore the cultural impact. There are still many aspects to uncover, and we can focus on some overlooked but fascinating details that might deepen the mystery even more. Psychological traits, a calculated and precise criminal to understand the mind of D.B. Cooper. We must delve into the psychological profile of the hijacker. This section explores his actions, decisions, and temperament to uncover what might have driven him to commit such an audacious crime. One of the most fascinating aspects of Cooper's behavior was his level of calm and control throughout the entire hijacking. From the moment he boarded the plane to the moment he parachuted into the night, he displayed remarkable composure. Psychologists who have analyzed the case often suggest that Cooper was highly organized and methodical. He knew exactly what he wanted and executed his plan, without significant emotional response or panic. This level of composure could suggest that Cooper had either a high level of criminal experience or a background in high-pressure situations. Some have posited that he might have been a former soldier, as his actions under pressure reflected someone trained to stay calm in chaotic and stressful situations. The calculated nature of his heist speaks to a personality driven by control, not impulse, a key trait in someone capable of planning such a sophisticated operation. Risk tolerance, a thrill seeker or desperate escapee? Another question that emerges when analyzing Cooper's psychology is his risk tolerance. The act of hijacking an airplane, demanding ransom, and then jumping out of the aircraft with no guarantee of survival was incredibly risky. To carry out such a high-stakes crime, one would need a specific kind of mindset. Some experts argue that Cooper might have been a thrill seeker, someone who enjoyed the adrenaline rush of committing daring acts. The hijacking could have been a calculated way for him to indulge in a high-risk venture, with the parachute jump serving as the ultimate expression of his desire for adventure. The precise nature of his plan suggests that he was familiar with how dangerous the situation was, but didn't let fear deter him. This could imply that Cooper had a personality driven by the pursuit of excitement, much like a daredevil or extreme sports enthusiast. Alternatively, there are theories suggesting that Cooper could have been driven by more desperate motives. Some believe he may have been in financial or personal distress, and the hijacking was a last-ditch effort to escape a difficult life. His calm demeanor could have been a result of a lack of other options. He wasn't trying to get away with the perfect crime for the sake of adventure, but rather to avoid a much greater personal catastrophe. Whether Cooper's motives were driven by a desire for excitement or by necessity, they offer intriguing psychological angles to his character. Theories of Cooper's death. Did he survive? The case for survival. A man who beat the odds won. Of the central questions of the D.B. Cooper mystery is whether or not he survived the jump. Given the extreme weather conditions, the risk of a dangerous parachute landing, and the rugged terrain, surviving such a jump would be difficult for any person, no matter their level of experience. However, there are numerous reasons to believe that Cooper did indeed survive. The FBI's investigation into the case has suggested that Cooper likely landed somewhere near the Columbia River, in a region known for its thick forests and mountainous terrain. While the FBI launched extensive search efforts in the following months and years, the fact that no physical evidence, such as a body or parachute, was ever discovered led some to argue that Cooper was able to escape unnoticed. Some speculate that Cooper could have used his knowledge of the land to find shelter or hide. The dense forests and harsh winter conditions would have provided him with ample cover. Even if he suffered a hard landing, he might have been able to make it to a remote location to recover. In addition, some experts argue that Cooper might have had a premeditated escape plan in place. For instance, he could have hidden the ransom money, made multiple stops, or used nearby rivers and trails to cover his tracks. Some researchers even suggest that Cooper may have been able to blend into local communities, assuming new identities and living the rest of his life under the radar. The idea that Cooper survived is a compelling one, as it adds a sense of mystery and intrigue to the case. The fact that the FBI was never able to recover his body or any direct evidence of his death leaves open the possibility that Cooper escaped to live out his days as a fugitive. The case for death. A high-risk jump gone. Wrong, on the other hand. There is a very real possibility that Cooper did not survive the jump. The conditions were extreme, and the area into which he jumped was not only treacherous, but also known for its hazards. The Columbia River Gorge, where many theories suggest Cooper might have landed, is notorious for high winds, swift currents, and steep terrain. The lack of physical evidence, such as a body, parachute, or even Cooper's clothing, has led some to speculate that he may not have survived the descent. If Cooper's parachute failed to deploy properly, or if he landed in an area that made it impossible for him to survive, he could have died shortly after jumping. The fact that no remains were found may simply indicate that Cooper perished in the wilderness, where recovery would have been near impossible. Theories supporting this view often point to the fact that Cooper's jump was made at night, which would have severely reduced his visibility and made it more difficult to judge. The landing. Add to that the challenging conditions on the ground, and the chances of a successful landing become slimmer. The end of the investigation. FBI closes the case. The decision to close the case, official end, or temporary halt. In 2016, after more than 4 decades of investigation, the FBI officially closed the D.B. Cooper case. The decision was met with mixed reactions. On one hand, some viewed it as a necessary step, given the lack of new leads and the overwhelming amount of time that had passed without any substantial progress. On the other hand, for many it felt like an unsatisfying end to a case that had remained one of the most compelling mysteries in criminal history. The FBI's closure of the case did not mark the end of public interest in the Cooper mystery. In fact, it only served to intensify the fascination. Despite the FBI's declaration, amateur sleuths, journalists, and conspiracy theorists continue to search for new evidence and push for the reopening of the investigation. Some believe that the FBI's closure of the case was merely a formality, and that the authorities are still tracking down new leads behind the scenes. There are others who believe that the case remains open in a broader, unofficial sense, as there are still many questions that the public wants answered. The closing of the FBI's case did not mark the end of Cooper's story. It simply set the stage for a new wave of investigations from independent researchers. Theories and suspects. the quest for the truth continues. Even after the FBI closed the case, new suspects continued to emerge. Theories about D.B. Cooper's identity continue to be a topic of intense debate. Some theorists suggest that Cooper could have been a career criminal with experience in high-stakes crimes. Others speculate that he could have been a disgruntled government worker or a former military officer. Some have argued that Cooper could have been a civilian with a background in skydiving, while others suggest that his knowledge of aviation, systems, and parachutes points to someone who had training in the military or in a specialized field like law enforcement. Ultimately, the search for D.B. Cooper's true identity remains a frustrating and elusive task. Though the FBI has closed its official investigation, the case continues to captivate the public's imagination. New theories continue to emerge, and new suspects are regularly proposed. The lack of definitive answers only enhances the allure of the case, ensuring that D.B. Cooper remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern criminal history. The enduring legacy, Cooper in popular culture D.B. Cooper as an icon of American mystery. Over the decades, D.B. Cooper has become more than just a criminal figure. He has evolved into a cultural icon. The mystery surrounding his identity and his audacious heist have made him a legend in the realm of American crime. In many ways, Cooper represents the ultimate example of a criminal who outwitted the authorities and escaped without a trace. Numerous books, documentaries, and podcasts have been dedicated to the D.B. Cooper case, each offering a different theory or angle on the crime. Some of the most popular works include investigative books like The Man Who Fell from the Sky and documentaries like D.B. Cooper, The Real Story. These works continue to fuel public interest in the case and inspire new generations of true crime enthusiasts. Beyond books and documentaries, Cooper's legacy has also made its way into popular culture in other ways. References to him have appeared in films, TV shows, and even comic books. He has been immortalized as a kind of folk hero, a symbol of rebellion and cunning. The geography of the hijacking. The role of the terrain in Cooper's escape, the route of flight. 305. Understanding the geography. To fully grasp the significance of D.B. Cooper's escape, it is vital to understand the geography over which he parachuted and the environment that played a key role in his disappearance. Flight 305 was a routine service that left Portland, Oregon at 2:50 p.m. on November 24, 1971, bound for Seattle. The flight route took the aircraft over rural and rugged terrain, providing Cooper with the perfect opportunity to escape. The route crossed through areas such as the Cascade Mountain Range and the Columbia River Gorge, regions characterized by dense forests, rivers, and mountains. The terrain was not only difficult for the authorities to search, but it also presented various challenges for Cooper during his jump. He would have had to navigate through turbulent winds, freezing temperatures, and uneven ground. The Columbia River Gorge, a vital piece of the puzzle. The Columbia River Gorge, one of the most iconic geographical features of the Pacific Northwest, plays a key role in the mystery of D.B. Cooper. The river is vast, with steep cliffs on both sides, and its surrounding forests are dense and difficult to navigate. The region, known for its harsh weather conditions, could easily have provided Cooper with the cover he needed to evade authorities after his jump. Investigators believe that Cooper may have jumped into the gorge, especially since his ransom money was later found near the river's banks. However, the geography of the area made it incredibly hard to conduct a search, with steep slopes and thick foliage creating obstacles for teams on the ground. Even after the discovery of the money in 1980, which seemed to suggest that Cooper had landed nearby, no conclusive evidence of his presence or body was found. The mystery of whether Cooper landed in the gorge or another area remains unsolved. However, the geographical challenges make it increasingly unlikely that the FBI would have been able to locate Cooper even if they had searched for years. Chapter 27. The physical evidence. What was left behind? The missing parachutes. Did Cooper leave behind clues? One of the most frustrating aspects of the investigation was the lack of any physical evidence to confirm Cooper's escape. Despite extensive searches of the surrounding terrain, authorities never found the parachute Cooper used or any trace of him after the jump. This lack of physical evidence is one of the main reasons why the case remains open and why new theories continue to emerge. The fact that Cooper was able to jump from the plane and disappear without leaving behind anything of significance raises important questions. Investigators theorize that he either hid the parachute or that it was lost in the dense terrain. Some believe that Cooper might have abandoned it shortly after landing to reduce the risk of being caught, while others argue that he could have deliberately hidden it in order to further elude law enforcement. The parachute itself could have offered crucial clues about Cooper's identity. If it had been found, it might have contained DNA or fingerprints that could have led investigators to his real name. The lack of such evidence only deepens the mystery of his escape and contributes to the overall intrigue of the case. The ransom. Money. A closer. Look at the 5800 when the discovery of the ransom money by young Brian Ingram in 1980 provided a significant lead, but the circumstances surrounding its recovery remain shrouded in mystery. Ingram was digging along the Columbia River, near the area where Cooper was believed to have jumped, when he uncovered 3 bundles of bills, totaling $5,800 in $20 denominations. The money was clearly deteriorated by time and water, but the fact that it was part of the ransom Cooper had demanded confirmed that he had been in the area. The discovery of the money raised more questions than answers. The fact that it was buried near the riverbank, an area that had been searched multiple times before, suggested that it had been deliberately hidden. This has led some theorists to believe that Cooper may have intended to come back for it at some point. Others argue that the money could have been carried downstream by the river and deposited in its current resting place. Further investigations into the serial numbers of the bills confirmed that they had been part of the ransom, but no additional clues about Cooper's identity were uncovered. Despite this breakthrough, the discovery of the money did little to bring authorities closer to solving the mystery. It remained a tantalizing piece of evidence, but one that still didn't offer a clear connection to Cooper himself. The pursuit of theories. Who was D.B. Cooper? The suspects, profiles of possible Coopers. Over the years, many individuals have been suggested as potential suspects in the D.B. Cooper case. These theories have ranged from well-known criminals to obscure individuals with unusual backgrounds. Let's explore some of the more notable suspects in greater detail. Lynn Doyle Cooper. A family connection. One of the most recent theories that has gained attention is the suggestion that D.B. Cooper could have been Lynn Doyle Cooper, a man with a troubled criminal past and a link to the Pacific Northwest. The theory was proposed by his niece, who claimed that her uncle was involved in the hijacking, and that he resembled the FBI's sketch of the suspect. She also pointed to certain behavioral traits and activities in his life that might have aligned with Cooper's actions. Though this theory garnered some media attention, it lacks definitive evidence to support it. Investigators have found no conclusive links between Lynn Doyle Cooper and the crime. While this theory is intriguing, it has not been able to produce any tangible results, and the FBI has not pursued it seriously. D.B. Cooper and the military. The skydiver theory. Another prominent theory posits that D.B. Cooper could have been a former military parachutist or a professional skydiver. This theory suggests that Cooper's proficiency with parachutes, his knowledge of aviation, and his ability to carry out such a precise jump point to someone with specialized military training. The theory that Cooper was a military man or a highly skilled skydiver has been fueled by the way he executed the jump. The precision and composure displayed during the hijacking and escape suggest a person who was highly trained. Additionally, The fact that Cooper demanded the use of specific types of parachutes further supports the idea that he had prior knowledge of parachuting. However, there has been no direct evidence to confirm that Cooper had military training. Many of the FBI's suspects, including those with military backgrounds, have been ruled out after extensive investigations, but the military skydiver theory continues to captivate some researchers. The mysterious background of Cooper. Could he have been an insider? One of the more thought-provoking theories is that Cooper could have been an insider, someone with knowledge of the airline industry. His specific demands regarding the plane, the ransom, and the parachutes suggest an intimate understanding of how airline operations worked. Some experts believe that Cooper could have been a former employee of the airline, someone who knew the ins and outs of the Boeing 727 and its security systems. Investigators have explored the possibility that Cooper was a disgruntled airline worker who decided to take advantage of his inside knowledge. However, there is little concrete evidence to suggest that such a person was involved in the hijacking. Many of the airline employees interviewed during the investigation were ruled out as potential suspects, but the possibility of an insider connection continues to linger in the background. Public fascination. Why we keep looking for D.B. Cooper. The cultural enduring nature of the mystery. What is it about the D.B. Cooper case that continues to fascinate people even decades after the hijacking took place? The allure of this mystery lies in its combination of high-stakes adventure, criminal ingenuity, and the elusive nature of the suspect. Cooper's crime was perfectly executed, and the fact that no one has ever identified him adds a sense of intrigue and drama. There is a certain romanticism that surrounds the idea of a criminal mastermind who pulls off the perfect heist, escaping with the loot and disappearing into the unknown. D.B. Cooper has become a modern-day folk hero, a symbol of audacity and cunning. His crime, unlike many others, was executed with such precision that it seems almost too perfect to be real. It's this mystique that continues to captivate new generations. Theories, documentaries, and pop culture. Cooper lives. On in popular culture, D.B. Cooper has been immortalized in countless books, documentaries, and television shows. From fictionalized versions of his crime to real-life investigations, Cooper's story continues to be told and retold in various forms. Documentaries like D.B. Cooper, The Real Story, and books like The Skyjacker Who Got Away have further fueled interest in the case, bringing new perspectives and theories to the table. Cooper has also appeared in fiction, most notably in the TV series The X-Files, where his story is integrated into the supernatural world of the show. These portrayals are not just about the crime itself, but about the enduring mystery and the search for answers. The fascination with Cooper's disappearance has embedded his name in the cultural lexicon, ensuring that his story lives on as one of the most enduring unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. Will we ever know the truth? A mystery that refuses to die. As we reach the final chapter in the story of D.B. Cooper, one thing is clear. The mystery is unlikely to be solved anytime soon. Despite the efforts of the FBI, investigators, and amateur sleuths, the true identity and fate of Cooper remain elusive. The case may have been closed officially, but it continues to capture the public's imagination, fueling theories and generating new interest with every passing year. The unresolved nature of Cooper's fate is what makes this case so captivating. Unlike many other criminal cases, where the criminal is caught and the story ends, D.B. Cooper's story is unfinished. He is a ghost, a criminal who vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions. Whether he lived to see old age or died in the wilderness, his legacy endures. And as long as the mystery remains unsolved, the legend of D.B. Cooper will continue to grow. Absolutely. Let's continue diving even deeper into the complexities of the D.B. Cooper case, exploring more overlooked details, theories, and facets that help explain why the case is so enduring. We can focus on expanding some specific angles, like the forensic, analysis of the evidence, a deeper dive into the search efforts, and even the cultural implications of the Cooper myth. Let's keep adding layers to this fascinating story. Forensic analysis, what science can tell us about Cooper, the FBI's forensic efforts, searching for evidence in the ransom. Money after the discovery of the ransom money in 1980, the FBI engaged in an extensive forensic investigation in hopes of uncovering crucial evidence that could identify D.B. Cooper. The most important piece of evidence was the money itself. Forensic analysts examined the $5,800 bills found along the Columbia River, looking for fingerprints, DNA, or other clues that could reveal Cooper's identity. Though the FBI was able to confirm that the money was indeed part of the ransom, they were not able to recover any usable prints or other identifying markers from the bills. The bills had been submerged in water for years, which likely washed away any potential traces of DNA. Furthermore, the condition of the bills made it difficult to gather any meaningful forensic data. The money was also heavily deteriorated, which complicated the forensic investigation further. The parachute, a missing link? One of the most frustrating aspects of the investigation is the lack of the parachute that Cooper allegedly used to escape. The parachute was key to understanding whether Cooper survived the jump and how he may have executed the heist. Forensic investigators hoped that if the parachute was found, it could contain important clues like DNA or fibers, which could lead to Cooper's identity. However, the parachute was never recovered, and this absence has stymied the investigation. Various theories suggest that Cooper may have discarded the parachute to avoid leaving behind any evidence or to make it more difficult for authorities to track his movements. Some believe that Cooper hid the parachute in the woods after landing to cover his escape, while others argue that he could have stashed it in a river or other natural hiding place. DNA analysis. Could modern technology uncover the truth? In recent years, the rise of advanced DNA analysis has led many to wonder whether modern forensic techniques could finally crack the D.B. Cooper case. While DNA evidence was not available during the initial investigation, current technology could potentially help solve this mystery if new evidence were to emerge. The possibility of obtaining DNA from objects like the ransom money or the parachute has renewed hope among some investigators. However, because the FBI never obtained Cooper's DNA during the original investigation, there's a significant challenge in directly linking a suspect to the crime. Additionally, the FBI's decision to close the case in 2016 and the deterioration of the key evidence from the hijacking complicates matters. Even with the latest DNA analysis techniques, it remains unclear whether they would be able to make a definitive identification. The search efforts. The hunt for D.B. Cooper. Initial searches. The hunt begins. After the hijacking, the FBI initiated an extensive search effort to find both D.B. Cooper and the parachutes he had used. This search was primarily concentrated around the area where Cooper was believed to have jumped, in the forests surrounding the Columbia River Gorge. In the immediate aftermath of the hijacking, search teams scoured the rugged terrain for any trace of Cooper. Despite the urgency of the search, the steep cliffs, dense woods, and heavy snowfall hampered the efforts. The area was vast, and many searchers felt that Cooper could have easily hidden his tracks or eluded them entirely. The extensive search and the lack of physical evidence. Despite the sizable resources dedicated to searching for Cooper, the absence of physical evidence was a major challenge for the FBI. Over several months, search teams combed through thousands of acres of wilderness, employing helicopters, ground teams, and even trained dogs. They searched for parachutes, footprints, and any sign of Cooper's landing or trail. But as weeks turned into months and then years, the search was called off due to the lack of leads. The fact that no solid evidence was found after such an extensive search led many to believe that Cooper had survived and escaped. This notion was bolstered by the fact that Cooper seemed to have executed his jump with incredible precision. The absence of physical evidence was both frustrating for investigators and compelling for those who believed Cooper had outsmarted the authorities. The search in 1980, the discovery of the ransom money, one of the most surprising developments in. The case occurred in 1980, when young Brian Ingram discovered the ransom money along the Columbia River. This discovery was a significant moment in the investigation, as it provided tangible evidence that Cooper had been in the area and suggested that he had buried or hidden the money before disappearing. Though the discovery was thrilling, it also introduced new questions. How had the money ended up in the river? And why had it been buried there? The fact that it was discovered many miles downstream from the presumed location of Cooper's jump raised doubts about whether Cooper had been able to make it that far. Was the money washed downstream by the river's current, or did Cooper intentionally hide it in a location where it might be found later? Could new technology solve the case? In recent years, there have been calls to reopen the investigation with the help of modern technology. With the advances in satellite imagery, drones, and forensic techniques, many believe that new search efforts could yield valuable information. Aerial searches and digital mapping could potentially reveal hidden locations that were missed during the original investigation. Additionally, advances in DNA and fingerprinting technology may uncover traces that were previously undetectable. The discovery of new evidence, perhaps a new lead or breakthrough, could reignite the investigation and bring the case closer to resolution. While the FBI officially closed its investigation, independent researchers and armchair detectives continue to use modern technology to delve deeper into the mystery of D.B. Cooper. What are the most convincing suspects? The suspect that just won't go away. One of the most discussed suspects in the D.B. Cooper case is Richard McCoy, a man who was arrested for a similar skyjacking in 1972. McCoy's case mirrors many aspects of Cooper's hijacking. He was a former military man with knowledge of parachuting, and his heist also involved demanding a ransom and jumping out of a plane. McCoy's arrest and subsequent conviction for his crime have led many to speculate that he could have been Cooper. McCoy was caught after a daring skyjacking, in which he demanded $500,000 and parachuted out of the plane. His method was eerily similar to Cooper's, and some have wondered whether McCoy could have been the real hijacker. However, there are significant differences between the two cases, such as the fact that McCoy was caught shortly after his crime, whereas Cooper vanished without a trace. Despite this, McCoy's name continues to surface in Cooper theories. Some believe that he could have been the person behind the 1971 hijacking, and that his arrest for the later crime is merely circumstantial evidence. However, McCoy's connection to the Cooper case has never been definitively proven, and his involvement remains a subject of debate. The possibility of a former military officer. A more widely accepted theory is that Cooper could have been a former military officer, specifically someone trained in parachuting. The precise nature of the jump and the hijacking, combined with the knowledge of flight routes and parachute systems, leads many to believe that Cooper may have had a military background. Some investigators have pointed to the fact that Cooper's jump appeared to be well executed. He knew exactly where and when to jump, and he understood how to operate the parachutes. The FBI initially focused on this theory, suspecting that Cooper was a military man with a parachuting background. This theory is supported by the fact that Cooper's parachutes were of military design, further suggesting that he had specialized knowledge. While there are several suspects who fit the profile of a former military officer, none of them have been conclusively linked to the hijacking. The theory remains speculative, but it has had a lasting influence on how investigators have approached the case. The insider theory. Could Cooper have been an airline worker? Another interesting theory posits that D.B. Cooper could have been an insider, someone with direct knowledge of the airline industry. This theory suggests that Cooper's expertise with the flight path, the airplane's operations, and the parachutes points to someone with professional experience in the aviation field. This theory would explain why Cooper was so confident during the hijacking and why he was able to execute the crime with such precision. An insider would have had a unique understanding of the airline's procedures, security protocols, and flight systems, making it easier to plan and carry out the heist. While no specific suspects have emerged under this theory, it continues to be a compelling explanation for the hijacking's success. The enduring legacy. D.B. Cooper's place in history-cultural impact. Cooper in popular culture. The legend of D.B. Cooper has continued to grow over the years, and his story remains one of the most enduring mysteries in criminal history. The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, each exploring the many theories surrounding the hijacking. His name has become synonymous with the idea of a perfect crime, and he is often depicted as a mysterious figure who outsmarted the authorities. Cooper has also been referenced in pop culture, particularly in television and movies. The character of D.B. Cooper has appeared in various shows, such as The X-Files, where his mysterious disappearance is intertwined with the supernatural. These fictional portrayals have cemented Cooper's place in American lore as an enigmatic figure who defies explanation. The D.B. Cooper myth. The perfect crime. As time has passed, D.B. Cooper has transcended his status as a criminal and become a symbol of the perfect crime. His heist was bold, executed with skill and precision, and most importantly, it remains unsolved. The idea of a criminal pulling off the ultimate heist and vanishing without a trace has captured the imagination of the public, turning Cooper into a folk hero of sorts. His story is an enduring testament to the allure of crime and the mystery surrounding those who attempt to outsmart the system. The legacy of D.B. Cooper, whether or not he is ever caught, will live on as one of the most iconic unsolved mysteries in modern history. The psychological profile of D.B. Cooper, understanding the mind behind the hijacking, psychological traits. A mastermind at work. To understand the true nature of D.B. Cooper, one must attempt to analyze his actions through the lens of psychological profiling. Cooper's meticulous planning, calm demeanor during the hijacking, and execution of the jump all suggest a mind that was methodical, precise, and controlled. He was not the typical panicked criminal, but rather a person who seemed to take pleasure in the execution of the crime itself. From the moment he boarded Flight 305 to the final moments of the hijacking, Cooper displayed characteristics often associated with professional criminals or even high-stakes gamblers. His ability to stay calm under pressure, make calculated decisions on the fly, and maintain control of the situation suggests a personality comfortable with risk and highly skilled in manipulating others. Cooper's demands, including the exact amount of money and the specific type of parachutes, reflect an individual who understood the logistics of aviation and skydiving. His actions were not those of a desperate man, but rather someone who planned his escape with a clear understanding of the potential risks and rewards. The fact that he executed the hijacking flawlessly suggests that he was not only familiar with the logistics of the crime, but also had a strong sense of self-control. Could D.B. Cooper have been a professional criminal? One of the most plausible psychological profiles of D.B. Cooper is that of a seasoned professional criminal. His knowledge of the mechanics of skydiving, the details of the flight's operation, and his ability to execute a hijacking without alerting the authorities until it was too late suggests that he could have been involved in other similar crimes. Professional criminal unlike an amateur, would have known exactly how to manage the high-stakes situation he found himself in. Cooper's cool-headedness throughout the ordeal is a common trait among people who are accustomed to breaking the law in high-risk situations. Such criminals often exhibit a level of confidence that allows them to outthink their captors and remain calm in the face of intense pressure. While there is no direct evidence to confirm Cooper's criminal background, his ability to carry out such a sophisticated heist points to a high level of experience. This has led some experts to believe that Cooper may have been involved in previous heists or had a background in criminal activities that were not immediately evident. Personality: a thrill-seeker or a desperate man? Another psychological aspect worth considering is whether D.B. Cooper was motivated by the thrill of the crime or a sense of desperation. Some have speculated that the hijacking was an act of a man seeking excitement, wanting to test the limits of his own capabilities and intelligence. Others believe Cooper may have been facing personal financial ruin, and the heist was his last-ditch attempt to escape his troubles. The fact that Cooper took the time to plan his escape with precision and demanded specific items, such as the exact amount of money and parachutes, suggests that he was not in a desperate state of mind. Instead, his actions seem to align more with the profile of a thrill-seeker, someone who sought not only the monetary reward, but also the sense of triumph from pulling off the perfect crime. There is also the possibility that Cooper was simply trying to escape from his life, whether for financial reasons, to flee law enforcement, or to disappear for personal reasons. This blend of rational planning with emotional motivation would make him a complex figure, a criminal driven by both rational thought and internal turmoil. The evolution of the investigation: changing approaches and techniques, early investigation, methods, a game of cat and mouse. In the immediate aftermath of the hijacking, the FBI's investigation followed traditional methods of crime solving, such as interviewing witnesses, collecting physical evidence, and attempting to track the movements of the suspect. However, the lack of immediate clues or witnesses who could offer concrete information about Cooper's identity left law enforcement with little to go on. Initially, the FBI believed that Cooper would attempt to flee to Canada, as the hijacking occurred along a flight path that would have taken him northward. They also considered the possibility that he may have had assistance from others, such as someone on the ground helping him after his jump. However, the lack of any follow-up leads or sightings quickly made these theories seem implausible. Over time, the FBI employed a variety of techniques, including interviewing suspects, reviewing skydiving records, and analyzing the ransom money. But despite these efforts, Cooper's identity remained elusive. The FBI's investigative approach was relatively conventional by 1970s standards, relying on human intelligence and evidence from the crime scene to piece together a profile of the suspect. The role of new technology in the investigation. In recent years, the investigation has benefited from advancements in technology, particularly in the fields of forensic science, digital mapping, and satellite imagery. These new tools have given amateur sleuths and investigators the ability to search for new evidence and revisit the case with fresh eyes. For example, modern satellite imagery has allowed researchers to map the flight path of Flight 305 and study the terrain over which Cooper likely jumped. Digital tools can analyze wind patterns, weather conditions, and other variables to help theorize where Cooper may have landed. Furthermore, advancements in DNA and fingerprinting techniques have made it possible to investigate new leads, potentially uncovering clues that were missed in the past. However, despite these advancements, the case remains unsolved, and the introduction of modern tools has not led to a breakthrough in identifying Cooper. Some critics argue that the case is simply too old, and that the passage of time, combined with the deterioration of the evidence, makes it increasingly unlikely that the mystery will ever be resolved. The evolution of aviation security. The impact of D.B. Cooper's hijacking, the transformation of airport security, Post-Cooper DB Cooper's hijacking had a profound and lasting effect on airport and aviation security across the United States. The audacity of his crime and the fact that he successfully escaped from a commercial airliner without being apprehended led to sweeping changes in how airlines and the government approached security measures. Before the Cooper hijacking, security, at most U.S. airports, was relatively lax. Passengers could move freely through terminals without being subjected to the rigorous screening processes that we associate with modern air travel. In fact, it was not uncommon for passengers to be able to board a flight without even showing proper identification. However, after Cooper's daring escape, the government and the aviation industry realized the vulnerability of the system. As a direct result of the hijacking, the Federal Aviation Administration, so FAA, implemented stricter security measures, including the introduction of metal detectors, thorough baggage screening, and increased scrutiny of passengers. In the years following the hijacking, the U.S. government also began requiring airlines to conduct background checks on passengers and crew members, including flight attendants, in order to prevent future hijackings. While these measures were implemented to reduce the risk of terrorism and criminal activity, they also marked the beginning of a new era in aviation security, one in which passengers and crew members were far more likely to encounter a stringent set of checks before boarding a plane. The legacy of Cooper's hijacking, a benchmark for future hijackings, D.B. Cooper's hijacking remains the benchmark for all other skyjackings that have occurred since 1971. While other hijackings have followed similar patterns, none have matched the audacity, precision, or mystery of Cooper's crime. The hijacking has influenced the way law enforcement handles such cases and has become a point of reference for modern-day hijacking attempts. Moreover, Cooper's ability to remain unidentified has had a significant impact on how authorities handle unsolved cases. His ability to evade capture for decades is seen as a testament to his planning and ability to outwit investigators. As a result, his case has been studied by criminal profilers and law enforcement agencies as a textbook example of a well-executed crime, influencing the way future hijacking cases are approached. D.B. Cooper's impact on public perception of crime. The birth of a myth. How media covered the hijacking. In the wake of D.B. Cooper's hijacking, the media quickly picked up the Hijacker story, and it became a sensation across the United States. The combination of the daring nature of the crime, the mystery of Cooper's identity, and the ultimate escape made for a compelling narrative that captivated the public. The media's coverage of the hijacking focused on the details of Cooper's demands, his jump, and his disappearance. At the time, the case was covered extensively in newspapers, television broadcasts, and radio programs. The fact that a criminal could pull off such an audacious heist and vanish without a trace created a sense of wonder and intrigue. The mystery surrounding Cooper's identity added an element of suspense that kept the public engaged. Over time, the story of D.B. Cooper became more than just a criminal case. It became a cultural phenomenon. As the years went on, the media's portrayal of Cooper evolved, with some outlets depicting him as a modern-day Robin Hood, while others painted him as a dangerous criminal mastermind. His story became a part of American folklore, fueling theories, documentaries, and fictional accounts of the hijacking. How the media shaped Cooper's legacy. The media's portrayal of D.B. Cooper played a major role in shaping his legacy. Cooper's case became a symbol of the mystery and allure of the perfect crime. The fact that the case was unsolved only added to the media's fascination with the story, making it an ongoing subject of discussion and speculation. As the years went on, the myth of D.B. Cooper grew stronger, fueled by media outlets that continued to cover the case. The image of Cooper as a shadowy, enigmatic figure who outsmarted the FBI captivated the public's imagination and solidified his place as one of the most famous criminals in history. The lasting impact on law enforcement and the FBI. The FBI's changing approach to skyjackings and hijacking. Protocols in the aftermath of the D.B. Cooper hijacking. The Federal Bureau of Investigation reevaluated its approach to dealing with hijackings, largely due to the unprecedented nature of the crime. At the time, hijackings were relatively common, but most of them were committed for political or ideological reasons. Cooper's heist, however, was a criminal act driven purely by financial gain, and the careful execution of the hijacking set it apart from previous cases. In the immediate wake of the hijacking, the FBI's response was primarily reactive. They employed standard investigative techniques, interviewing witnesses, analyzing evidence, and tracking down potential suspects. However, as the case went cold and Cooper's identity remained unknown, the FBI began to realize the limitations of their existing methods in tackling this new type of criminal. The hijacking brought attention to the gaps in aviation security and the challenges law enforcement faced in tracking criminals who possessed sophisticated knowledge of aviation. 1. Significant change was the FBI's focus on the training and preparation of airline personnel. Airlines, alongside federal authorities, worked to ensure that flight crews were better equipped to handle hijacking situations. The Cooper case led to increased efforts to improve security procedures, with a special emphasis on both air crews and passengers being educated about what to do in the event of a hijacking. The shift to modern technology in crime solving. The D.B. Cooper case also marked the beginning of the FBI's transition into using more advanced technology in its investigations. The FBI began employing forensic techniques that had been underdeveloped at the time of the hijacking. In the years following the case, technological advancements such as fingerprint analysis, DNA profiling, and electronic surveillance became invaluable tools in their investigative arsenal. For example, one of the biggest challenges in the Cooper case was the lack of tangible evidence that could identify the hijacker. The FBI was unable to recover usable fingerprints from the hijacking scene or the ransom money. As DNA technology became more advanced in the 1990s and 2000s, many hoped that reanalyzing existing evidence, such as the bills found along the Columbia River, would yield results. Though these new techniques were explored, they ultimately failed to produce the breakthrough that many had hoped for. Nevertheless, the D.B. Cooper hijacking became a textbook example of how cases involving complex criminal activities would evolve in the modern age. Investigators began to look at the case not just as an unsolved crime, but as a catalyst for changing investigative procedures in a new, high-tech world. The end of the official investigation. The FBI closes the case in 2016. The FBI officially closed its investigation into the D.B. Cooper case after 45 years of fruitless pursuit. The decision to close the case was made due to a lack of new leads and evidence. Despite having spent millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hours on the investigation, the FBI was unable to definitively identify the hijacker or locate his remains. The announcement of the closure was met with mixed reactions. Many of the public and amateur sleuths who had followed the case for decades were disappointed by the decision, feeling that it prematurely ended a mystery that had captivated the world. Others, particularly those within the FBI, recognized that further efforts would be futile unless new concrete evidence surfaced. Still, the mystery surrounding D.B. Cooper persisted, and his name would continue to echo in popular culture and conspiracy circles for years to come. New suspects and fresh investigations. The new generation of suspects. Fresh eyes on the case. Although the FBI closed its investigation, that didn't stop new theories and suspects from emerging. As more information became available over time, including the discovery of new pieces of evidence, researchers, amateur sleuths, and even retired FBI agents began revisiting the case with fresh eyes. Several new suspects have emerged, and the public's interest in the mystery of D.B. Cooper has only intensified. Many of these new suspects are people who had never been considered during the original investigation, as the FBI had narrowed its focus to specific profiles in the early years of the investigation. In 2018, a documentary on the D.B. Cooper case introduced a man named Robert Rackstraw as a possible suspect. Rackstraw was a former military paratrooper who had been a suspect earlier in the case, but was ultimately cleared. However, some researchers suggested that his involvement may not have been fully ruled out. The documentary reignited interest in his potential connection to the hijacking, prompting the public to reconsider Rackstraw as a viable candidate. Theories about Cooper's fate. Did he survive the jump? One of the most enduring aspects of the D.B. Cooper mystery is the question of whether Cooper survived the jump. The FBI's original theory was that Cooper died during the jump, possibly crashing into the rough terrain or being carried away by the river. However, there is still no conclusive evidence either way. The fact that no body has been found has kept the debate alive. Some experts believe that Cooper may have survived the jump and managed to evade authorities. The rugged terrains of the Pacific Northwest could have provided him with the perfect cover, allowing him to disappear without leaving any trace. Others have argued that Cooper was likely unprepared for the jump's dangers. He was, after all, not an experienced skydiver, and that he most likely perished during the leap into the forest below. This uncertainty about Cooper's fate has kept the theories alive, with some even suggesting that he may have survived and lived out his life in hiding. Could Cooper have been living under a new identity, blending into society? Or did he perish on that cold night in the forests of Washington? The mystery endures, and without definitive evidence, it remains one of the greatest unknowns in criminal history. The evolution of the Cooper myth D.B. Cooper as an American folk hero as the years passed. D.B. Cooper's story evolved from an unsolved hijacking to a piece of American folklore. Cooper's daring heist, his seemingly perfect escape, and his continued elusiveness turned him into a folk hero in the eyes of many. In the same way that people romanticize figures like Jesse James or Bonnie and Clyde, many came to view Cooper as a symbol of defiance against the system. In pop culture, Cooper was often portrayed as a modern-day outlaw, someone who defied the odds, outwitted the FBI, and disappeared without a trace. The mystery surrounding his identity made him even more intriguing, fueling his legend. As the decades passed, his story became a cautionary tale about the limits of law enforcement and the elusiveness of truth. Impact on popular culture D.B. Cooper's influence has extended far beyond the realm of criminal investigations. He has become a pop culture icon, appearing in books, movies, television shows, and documentaries. His story has been featured in everything from true crime documentaries to fictionalized accounts of his life. In the television series The X-Files, for example, the Cooper case is referenced as part of a larger narrative involving mysterious disappearances and unsolved crimes. The allure of the perfect crime continues to captivate the imagination of both creators and audiences alike. Cooper's name has become synonymous with a bold, mysterious crime, cementing his place in the pantheon of infamous criminals. The Cooper case has also been the subject of numerous books, including those by retired FBI agents, investigative journalists, and amateur sleuths who have attempted to piece together the puzzle of Cooper's identity. Despite all the speculation, theories, and investigations, the story of D.B. Cooper remains unresolved, and his legacy as a criminal mastermind continues to capture public attention. The influence of D.B. Cooper on modern aviation security reforms. Post-Cooper, the D.B. Cooper hijacking was not just an isolated event. It played a major role in reshaping the landscape of aviation security. Before the hijacking, airline security was relatively minimal, and many passengers and crew members were largely unprepared for a serious hijacking attempt. In response to the D.B. Cooper case and the growing fear of similar crimes, the federal Government enacted a series of security reforms that would permanently alter the way air travel was conducted. These reforms included the implementation of metal detectors at airports, stricter baggage screenings, and more thorough background checks for airline personnel. The Cooper case also led to significant changes in how the aviation industry viewed security measures. Airlines began to prioritize the safety of their passengers and crew, leading to new protocols for dealing with hijackings and other forms of in-flight crime. The enduring mystery of D.B. Cooper, mystery that will never be solved. As we reach the end of this exploration of D.B. Cooper's hijacking, it's clear that the case remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American criminal history. The mystery of who D.B. Cooper was, how he carried out such a daring crime, and whether he survived or perished during the jump will likely never be fully answered. Yet the enduring fascination with Cooper's story continues to captivate people all over the world. The case remains a symbol of intrigue, a reminder that some questions may never have definitive answers, and that sometimes the greatest mysteries are the ones that defy explanation. Whether or not we ever discover the true identity of D.B. Cooper, the legend will live on as one of the most iconic and enduring criminal mysteries of all time. The enduring mystery of D.B. Cooper, a crime that defies time. D.B. Cooper's hijacking was more than just an act of criminal daring. It was the birth of one of the most captivating mysteries in American history. Nearly half a century later, the story continues to captivate audiences worldwide. The FBI, despite its best efforts, still has no answers. Countless theories have been proposed, but none have ever truly cracked the case. Who was D.B. Cooper? Was he a rogue, criminal mastermind, a military expert, or just an ordinary man with extraordinary courage? In the decades since Cooper vanished into thin air, he has become a cultural icon. From documentaries to podcasts, books, and even fictional adaptations, the mystery of D.B. Cooper refuses to fade into obscurity. His story is a testament to the fact that some puzzles are so complex, so tantalizing, that they linger in our collective consciousness. The question remains, did he survive the jump? Did he ever spend the money, or did he disappear forever, a ghost in the wilderness? Is D.B. Cooper still alive, or did he perish that fateful night in the forest? Will we ever uncover the truth behind his daring escape? If you have your own theories, or if you believe you've cracked the case, drop your thoughts in the comments below. This mystery may never be solved, but that's what keeps us coming back, isn't it? Stay tuned, because if there's one thing we know about unsolved crimes like this, the answers are never as simple as they seem. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive into one of the most mysterious stories ever told. Until next time, keep questioning everything. And remember, the truth is often stranger than fiction.